Hello there, Geek Collective, and welcome to Geeks Plus Comics. We're more than just your average geeks. I'm your host, Cross, back with another Let's Talk Comics, and we are back with our usual frequent flyer to the channel, Louis Southard. And it's a really exciting time to have Louis back here. Not only does he have a brand new Kickstarter out there in the world, but for a while there, it looked like we were never going to see Louis on the show again. He had walked away from the comic book world, but thankfully he is back, and he is back with a bang. I've gotten to check out his brand new comic that he's got on Kickstarter. I'll get him to jump into it in a little minute. But Louis, thank you so much for joining me and coming back on the show. It is an absolute pleasure to see you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me back on. I feel like this is completely mandatory anytime I have a comics project, because we're near. I think we're inching into like 8 years of possibly knowing each other, something along those lines.
Yeah, so it's like pushing past. We're past the half decade at this point. We're pushing well into like the next part of it. At this, like, you were there. You were our first guest. You've been there since the way back at the beginning days. So it only feels right to have you back on the show pretty much anytime something new from you drops. And this one is no exception. So thank you for coming on and tell us a little bit about this new project you've got.
Well, I'm gonna start off by I'm sure you have a lot of new fans and followers since the last time I was on.
Oh yeah, absolutely, so completely rolling in.
I'm just going to do a brief introduction. My name is Louis Southard. I'm a comic book writer. I've been working in the industry for close to a decade now, and I work with a lot of publishers, Mad Cave Studios. In the middle of this, don't switch. There we go. Mad Cave Studios. I'm currently working for Valiant, Scout Comics, Action Lab, a whole bunch of others. I've written a lot of books. There's probably a good playlist of videos on this very channel.
Yeah. I'll put a little link up in one of the corners right now for a playlist of all the interviews and reviews we've done of Lewis's stuff. There's quite a few on here at this point. So go and check those.
So yeah, no, I've done a bit. This isn't my first book. This isn't my first rodeo. But it is a first of a kind. It is I'm currently promoting my first ever Kickstarter, not necessarily my first crowdfunder, but this is all entirely me and, of course, my creative team. But this is for Laugh Riot #1, which I can only describe. I'll give you the logline. It's Looney Tunes versus 1984. And it's basically, this specific crowdfunder is a 24-page thrill ride, basically detailing a dark and twisted, sinister world, a dystopia known only as Usonia, where the tyrannical ruler known as President Thaddeus K. Gander is part of all aspects of life. Not just politics, he's part of daily living in the sense of, self-help, child rearing, even your very own relationship with your best gal or best boy. He's somehow part of it. And then, the other side of the coin, there's a mysterious jester by the name of Mary Andrew, and he's up to something, and Lord knows what he is up to. And put those two things together, conflict ensues. So that's currently what we're doing. I'm going to shout out the creative team real quick.
Yes, please do. Please do.
I wrote it. This was drawn by an incredibly talented cartoonist, Devlin Baker, who I worked with once before on last year's graphic novel, Comics Are Dying, the comic. And then it's lettered by my ever-faithful letterer, Buddy Bedoin, who I'd been working with as long as I've been in comics. And then a fantastic main cover art by Julianne Griep. I think she's one of the best living artists right now. I am her patron, a patron, I guess, a patron of the arts. Yeah, I just want to keep making her make things. So that's her.
I do not blame you.
What do you got to say?
I was going to say, do not blame you. That the cover, like if you're talking the cover that you sent me in the PDF to check it out, like it is stunning. It is beautiful work. So yeah, everybody go hire her for something. Go find something to hire her for. Her work is amazing.
No, give her a follow because
she's
go and check she's one of the best.
It's like, and
But
and a shout out to Devlin as well. Like the art inside the book is phenomenal as well. Like you've managed to get some amazing artists on this book. That was one of the things I definitely noticed was the artwork is top tier for this comic. Like,
thank you. I'll let everyone know. But like Devlin, I think I have been saying that he kind of reminds me of like a young Frank Miller, especially with how he draws people and like kinetic action. So like I
yes,
noticed this when we did Comics Are Dying, and he has a very the thing that sold me on him when I was like trying to come up with the visual style for how this book should look. It came. I think he did either a commission or just a fan art of Typhoid Mary from the Daredevil comics.
okay,
But
yeah,
it's her costume, but she's kind of also like inspired or amalgam with like how Chapel Rowan the singer looks like.
okay,
So it's
yeah,
and like including how both those a character and well, I guess Chapel Rowan technically plays a character on stage too. But like how those two kind of blend together costume wise, it's such a beautiful piece. So when I saw that, I'm like, this is the guy. And I wrote the script all like centered around him in my mind. And I then which, terrible way to operate of like I'm gonna put all my eggs in this one basket. But that's a very oversimplification of how I look at it. But like and then it being like, hey, I kind of wrote this with you in mind. What do you think? And I was so thankful that he said yes. So we've been working on this for a few months, and he's currently drawing issue 2. So that's how much faith we have in this project. But just to round out the other members of the creative team, we have some fantastic variants for sale. One by an incredibly popular artist, Azonab, and another longtime collaborator, Lyndon Cahill.
mm.
Both of them did covers, and then personal. I'm gonna say friend, let's say acquaintance, real life scientist and artist Liza Vanderart drew the sticker art for this campaign as well. So it's like an adorable little chibi version of our main character, Mary Andrew. So I came up with a beautiful team of a lot of people I really like. And I'm gonna give you one little fun thing that I've not told anyone yet. But you mentioning the main cover by Julianne, uh, we are doing like a motif with all the covers for like we planned out the series to run about hopefully 8 to 9 issues. Each one like it's all building up to something. We're hoping it's a bit of a maxi series, and each cover, the idea is it is inspired by a famous or maybe not as well known, but a an American propaganda or historical painting.
Oh,
So each cover is centered around something from actual history. So this isn't too much of a spoiler, but like the issue 1 cover is based on a piece of art from the early 1900s um, that was of the original American symbol. Before Uncle Sam, it was a woman named Columbia. So
mm.
it's based on a painting of her on the world. And that's what the issue 1 cover of We Put Mary Andrew instead.
That
And
is
then
awesome. I
you can
love
see
it.
it on the issue on the campaign page as well. Little sneak peek into issue 2. We have the cover for that, and that is based on the Manifest Destiny painting from the 1850s of an angel guiding the white settlers to reclaim or to claim the westward expansion of the land. But we did a bit of a Hieronymus Bosch, or she did a Hieronymus Bosch twist on the whole cover. So it's fantastic. Like we're having a lot of fun with this, and I hope to get into more of that with you
Yeah,
because like
absolutely.
this whole book.
I had no idea you were doing that with the covers and like, and that's it's brilliant to be completely honest. Like, obviously, we're going to get into kind of the themes of the book and what it all is, which, but it's like it completely plays into that, into the American propaganda, into all of that sort of stuff. So to make that like the theme for the covers, and not even like that's something that you would imagine saying like, hey, that's a series of variant covers or something. Like, no, that's the covers. This is like we're playing straight into this is what the book's about, and like that's amazing. That's absolutely phenomenal. I am not an art person at all. Like I would not pick up in paintings or anything like that. Not to mention the fact I'm not American, so American stuff sometimes just goes over my head at the best of times.
Mhm.
But like to know that, I'm like, oh, that is such a cool idea. That's such a phenomenal idea.
It's been I'm a really big fan of history because I find real I love reading, right? And I love fiction. But there is like this I get a different itch in my brain scratch just in terms of how weird real life can be.
Mm,
And history is just full of eccentric characters and events and time periods and just whatever. So you can really mine like a lot of fun, bizarre stuff. And with this book being somewhat about America to some degree,
yeah,
is been really fun to kind of like play into history and play into culture. And I think you read it, and I think it'd be easy to say like, and especially issue one, because it is very much every issue one is a bit of a welcome to the world
yeah,
type of package. Um, but like being able to reflect our modern times while also reaching back into the past to either say maybe not much has changed or that we are always like in a bit of a cycle or a pattern. Like I think that's kind of the hat trick or the fun of it. Like it's been very interesting. But I that's not me basically like coming up with this. I have to admit, I after Andor came out, I really
mm,
went on a big Tony Gilroy kick because I find him as a director and a writer very fascinating.
mm,
And that seemed to be in a lot of his interviews the main thing of just like, if you want to address the issue, don't just look at right now, look back at history and see what is the common
yeah,
thread. And I think that has been like a good way of tackling an issue without being preachy, I think. So
yeah.
it's been good fun.
That's really interesting to hear that that's kind of like part of the your kind of inspiration and research into doing this is like just that idea is phenomenal of don't just look at what's going on now. If there's an issue that's going on, it's something that's caught your attention, look at history and how it's happened throughout history. How has it changed? How has it evolved? What's been the staying factor of a certain topic? Um, to kind of start delving to the book a little bit then. So the book is definitely a political book. There's there's not
No, it's
really.
not. It's got a funny little clown in
It's a
it.
funny little jester man who does funny things. That's all the book is. The book clearly has political tones in it. Which what was the inspiration to do a book that was a political book? Especially like let's be honest, the world we're in it is 2025 at the time of recording, October 2025. America is a tumultuous political war zone, for lack of a better term, right now. It's either a really brave or a really stupid thing to do a political book at this point in time.
uh yeah, that's well, okay. I'm not gonna come on here and okay, no. I have my politics, right? I okay. I just look out into the world and I see a lot wrong in a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a very strange time. It's a very dark time, and it's very like cynical and kind of like defeatist or nihilistic. I feel like a lot of people have sort of given up, or it's just like you turn on the news every day, or you catch the news, and it's always like this horrible thing. And I'm a Gen Z person, and I kind of have felt my whole life. Like I was born like 2 years before 9/11, right? And like the world I've been sort of brought into, and the world I've grown up in, has been very dark in the sense of like growing up in like schools, learning how to prepare to die, essentially, like if there's a school shooter, like, and what you do, or like me, I'm a bigger guy, or a bigger man, and like being selected by a teacher with a bunch of other boys being like, okay, you guys would be our first line of defense, or something like that, or like you would throw this or you would do that.
Which is a hell of a
And
thing to happen in school. Like, yeah, you're big enough to be the
yeah,
first line of defense in a
yeah,
school.
yeah, congratulations, you've been drafted, son. But like, yeah, and then dealing with the pandemic,
Mhm.
dealing with this very big separation of people, where it just feels like everyone's at each other's throats,
Yeah.
or it feels like there is no accountability anymore for anyone. And it also just feels like a lot of real life has become entertainment to some, and I find that to be very disheartening. And like I described it to someone earlier today. I felt like dealing with myself and people of my generation. I'm an elder Gen Z, but like across the board, there seems to be like this abyss kind of like lurking over us. And I'm sure this isn't like strictly to one generation, right? But like the like but there's like a whole language. There's a whole language like black pilling, or like doom scrolling, bed rotting, just like all these slang terms which boil down to just being miserable.
Yeah.
Um, and I find that to be very, very sad. So one of the things as I've gotten older is just having to learn to reject that. Like even among my own peers, having to be like, no, you're wrong, even if I agree with them. Like being like, of this sucks. Of like, no, you're wrong. Just like we have to have hope and we have to maintain optimism. Or if we can't, we at least have to do something. And I guess my something is making a comic book about all of my feelings, good and bad, about, to steal the Marvel thing, like the world outside my window.
Yeah.
And I'm just compiling like my feelings and my thoughts, and not even just like I said earlier, not even about the today, just about history, about what America is, or about what it could be, or what we think it is, um,
Yeah.
as well as just like general things. Sorry, but like the general, just so I don't lose the thought,
No, 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 go
just
for it.
like
Go for it.
general things I am interested in, whether it be in art or just in pop culture, or and it's kind of just been a great catharsis and escapism for me in creation, as well as with a lot of members from the team. A lot of them have said that they felt similar things, and then this book has also been like cathartic and escapist to some degree. So like having that connective tissue, or having that message already resonate with the people making it, I hope it will resonate with the people who read it.
No, absolutely. And I think what you're doing is a phenomenal thing to do. Is like it's because there's the potential for people to kind of react to it. You're in a political comic in a very politically charged era, and at the very least, there's a chance to piss off half of the people out there, if not all of them. But it's like, but this is exactly what comic books have always done.
It's art.
Comic books have always challenged the world that they've seen. You know, like the first thing that pops to mind is stuff like the freaking X-Men in Marvel, and every disenfranchised group in the world throughout history since they were created have gone, whether they were people of color, whether it was LGBTQ, whether it was whatever, have associated they're the outsiders that people hate. That's what I feel like, you know, like in Stan Lee in creation of half of the characters were results to the world around him. Like the creation of stuff like Iron Man was because of the pending wars going on in the world, and the push of weaponization and all this different stuff. Like comics have always had a political stance. I mean, hell, like to even go back to Captain America's issue of like him
Yeah,
punching out Hitler, like is 100%. I always hate people go comics aren't political. Literally, the most famous picture of Captain America in the world is punching Hitler. You don't get much
yeah,
more political stance than that of like I hate Nazis, I'm going to hit them. Like,
Well, we also forget that a lot of comics started as war propaganda, or like
yes.
even before the war. Like Superman's a good example of a comic that came out before World War II, but then when we got into the war, was brought in by the government to then be propaganda.
Yeah,
That's
truth,
not me
justice, and the
critiquing,
American way.
and that's not me critiquing anything. That's just like
That's just what
just the
happened.
truth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like
just what
sell
happened.
war bonds, and stuff like that. But like, even in I feel like James Gunn with the movies and TV shows he makes also adhere to that. I know Superman. I was surprised with how radical in some ways the Superman movie was. Like I didn't think you could kind of get away with that sort of message in this time, like
Yeah,
in such a big blockbuster film. And not only that, but have it resonate with so many people. And then, like with the Peacemaker show, I almost said program, and that almost made me feel like I was a grandfather.
all right,
But
old
the
man.
Peacemaker program, yeah, like constantly dealing with like, yeah, I'm gonna have this guy continuously kill white supremacists, and it's just like, like I feel like it. Why not? Like, is that
Yeah,
political? Is that political to say like someone who hates someone is wrong? Like, or just like stupid?
it shouldn't be, but like in today's world, unfortunately, it kind of has become that. Even though it's like it's insane to think.
I reject it. don't need to don't need to hear anymore. I reject it, and then I go off to frolic in a field. That's the way I live my life.
I mean, sounds good to me. Sounds sounds a good way to choose to go. But we obviously have your take on a political comic, a very interesting take on it, with Laugh Riot. Um, and yeah, it feels like it's very prominent to today. Like even the world that's created, like you said, Usonia, which obviously is like this utopian like USA where it's led by a Colonel Sanders looking dude. Thaddeus Gander.
I would say Jeff Goldblum.
Oh yeah, actually. Yeah. Definitely got a Jeff Goldblum to him. And where like you said, he's essentially like in what was it, like his 10th, 11th term or something like that. Is he's
Yeah,
basically been running the country for like so long at this point. He's encroached into everything. He's essentially became a religious leader to an extent. Like he's almost like this god king figure.
I
Um,
would say he's not even a religious figure in this world. This isn't a spoiler. In this world, he's part of the religion. Like,
mm,
they have their own Bible, and he's part of the story.
yeah, that I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's a great image in one of the first few pages of a stained glass window of him holding Jesus in his arms, which is just a phenomenal image to get the point across. I love it. Um, but not everyone is happy in this world, and that's kind of where we come in with our protagonist. Uh,
Here, let's spoil it because it's in the preview pages on the
okay, I was gonna
Kickstarter.
say because like I'm edging my words because like I don't want to give away too much, but it's like I want to
Just
just
say it. Just say it.
our introduction to Mary Andrews or Mary Andrew is the assassination of Thaddeus K. Gander as he steps to the podium to make his great speech. Shot
He's
through the
not.
head, and he is gone. And literally from that moment, the comic doesn't stop moving. Like the whole rest of the comic becomes this fast paced hunt for the killer, who is Mary Andrew, who is basically making this, like, as you described it, as like Looney Tunes esque escape from everything that's going on. He is essentially a living cartoon character, which I love the artwork for him. In the terms of like just the shot of his head and as his emotions change, like his hat changes shapes and stuff. Like if he gets worried or sad, the hat droops like a dog ears, and like it's such an animated image. Considering the rest of the characters are all pretty standard like characters
They're just
compared to it.
normal.
He's very artsy, flowy, cartoony. The thought I got in my head for comparison was it's like V for Vendetta meets The Mask. It's this like
So
political thriller, and then this cartoon character who reacts like a cartoon character in a world where he shouldn't be able to do that.
I very much like that little log line of Mask meets V for Vendetta. That's very good. But yeah, I would. This is not a spoiler. Like it is. It is basically like, what if you take the ultimate world of order, of structure and organization, and then dump something that is seemingly impossible into this world?
Yeah.
And that is what Mary Andrew is. And like this kind of was spurned by a question that I sort of asked myself, where it was just like, what would be like the greatest antithesis to fascism in a way?
Yeah.
And it's just like what is, and it was Looney Tunes. It's which if you pay, it's just utter chaos.
Yeah.
And there is no rhyme or reason. Like there is no control. There is, and then it just made me think like, well, then Bugs Bunny is the greatest rebel of all.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the whole conception of this whole idea of like just imagining Bugs Bunny as the ultimate rebel. So like we're not really like, I'm gonna say like it's all planned out that it makes sense in the context of this world. I will say that if we get to make this whole series, it just makes sense. To quote what's his name, Todd Howard, it just makes sense. But like there are reasons, but you're just gonna have to read and find out.
Yeah, because interesting stuff, and I'm hoping this isn't too spoilery. If it is, I'll dub over this or something during the show. But it's like because at first it's like he's just this eccentric character who's able to like get away from the guards that are chasing him, and we see like flips through elevator shafts and all this stuff, and your mind doesn't think much of it when you're reading it. But then there's like scenes where all of a sudden he pulls out this mallet and hits them, and I remember like the whole scene of like, at first it didn't register with me because I thought, oh well, it's a comic, yeah, he just has I'm used to reading superhero comics, people pull stuff out of places.
Well, naturally he would have a mallet.
Yeah, naturally he's got a mallet, and I'm like, of course he's got a mallet on him that can hit them, and he's just pulled it out of nowhere. Until one of the guards goes, where did they get that from? And it's like, oh. So it's not just like comic book logic of like, yeah, he can just pull this item out of somewhere. This is something bizarre to them as well, which is what made me think of like The Mask, which with the mallet, that's where my head went, was The Mask, was that scene of him like trying to crush the clock with a giant mallet he just pulls out of his pants from nowhere. And it's like, this guy is literally working in cartoon logic in the real world. Like,
but listen to that though. Like think about how scary, and then we play on that in the story. Like think about how scary that would be.
Yes.
If you just see someone, and then all of a sudden they, out of nowhere, they can pull out like, this isn't a spoiler. Like at one point he pulls out like a gun as well.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you can kind of like pull out, like 1 minute you have nothing, next minute you can have anything.
Yeah.
And like we really do like have a lot of ideas and play into it. So like it's a very terrifying, almost existential thing. And like people do talk about it in the context of the book and in issue 1, and everyone has a bit of a different reaction to the reality or seemingly unreality of this character.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
because yeah, it's like, it is one of those things of like, you, when it starts to hit you, like you said, like the context of that, like that's such a terrifying concept, because as far as they're concerned, like, how do you stop someone who doesn't adhere to the laws of the world, the laws of just physics and reality? Like, how in the world do you stop someone when he's decided, yeah, I'm going to stop this? Like, look, he just shot like our president, our god, our the person who is an inane part of every part of our culture. How do we stop that?
Well, that's the story.
Exactly, but that's it. That's the story. That's what we have to pick it up and find out. But like, it's such an amazing promise to think. It's such an amazing kind of thing to think about. Is because it's like, oh, how it makes you want to know how it's going to play out.
I'll say this. Basically, each issue is, how can I describe it? The plan is, each issue is sort of the response from different parts of this world. So so we've introduced like this fascist society built on utter control. Then we introduce this character that cannot be contained and can seemingly do the impossible.
Yeah.
So it's like playing back into that Looney Tunes thing. It's like, now let's see all the Elmer Fuds of the world come up with their genius plans to get this guy. So
only Elmer Fudd's trying to stop Bugs Bunny doing what Bugs Bunny does.
Yeah, and then issue 2 is these are not spoilers; these are teases. Issue 2 is the religious response of how do they deal with this, and I've written issue 3, and issue 3 is the military response of how do they, as well as like talking about we talked about propaganda earlier, like working hand in hand with like military as well as like the store, like the government trying to create ownership of Mary Andrew, so to speak. Like, how can we sort of commercialize him?
Yeah.
And own him. So like, I get to play with a lot of different aspects and perspectives in this, because Mary Andrew, while he is like the protagonist, I wouldn't say he's like a main character. No, is he the main character? I don't know. He's like this. He's like the best way I could describe is like in the old horror comics, like Ice Cream Man from Image Comics, where the Ice Cream Man plays a part in every story, but he's not necessarily the main focus.
Yeah, he's a through line in all these other stories. It's like he's like Mary Andrew is the running thing throughout all the stories, but it doesn't focus on him necessarily.
No, well, we will focus on him in some issues, but like I said, like each chapter, the whole plan is, it all connects, it all kind of meshes together, and it all builds up to something really spectacular. Like in terms of comic book creation, the hopeful finale is one of the most fun and out there ideas that I've ever come up with, and one that I think artistically is going to be a thrill for readers. So my goal is that we're in this for the long haul. As long as people keep supporting the campaign, then I really hope we can tell this full story. I mean, we've already got issue 1 in the bag. We're fully funded, but we want more bodies, we want more readers.
I was going to say as well, congratulations. As of today of recording this, it has officially been fully funded, so congratulations on that. So
Thanks
perfect
so much.
time, everyone, to back this comic. Is like, if you want to check this out for yourself, if you back it, it's guaranteed. It's like, it's not back it and hope that it makes its goal. It's guaranteed. If you back it, you're getting issue 1. And there's a whole host of other stuff to get, we talked about as well. Like there's variant covers, there's stickers, I saw one of the packages is your previous work, The Comics Are Dying. The comic is part of one of the collections. Like, there's so much on offer to pick up for this, so go and check it out. And if you want to check out Laugh Riot, this is your perfect chance to at least get in on the ground floor and see what it's like for yourself. To kind of venture a little bit away from the comic as well, because I don't want to take too long, but I want to also venture into this. I did want the chance to talk with you about the fact of that you're back.
Yeah.
You're back in comic books, because like I last time I got to talk with you, I thought was going to be the last time, because not too long after it was a big announcement that you were stepping away from comic books, that you were done. and here you are putting out
The
arguably one
comic
of
book.
your best works that you've done yet, with Laugh Riot. Can you take us a little bit through that? Obviously, I don't want to delve too deep into personal stuff. It's your life, but what was the? Can you tell us a little bit about the idea of stepping away and what pulled you back in and brought you back to the comic book world?
I, I really don't mind getting into it. You know what? It's probably good to be a little vulnerable, or so I'm told. So like, 2024 was a really bad year for me personally. I had to deal with a very close person of mine in hospice passing away, and I had to deal with uh, a loved one passing away and having to support multiple people during that time, as well as like earlier that year I had to basically create and make all of Comics Are Dying, the comic, my original graphic novel made with Zoop, and that was more difficult than usual because that was me managing 120 with like extra creators or like colorists and letterers, like 120 people. Um, in the meantime, trying to balance day to day life, trying to balance the world, trying to balance like making the next comic or worrying about the next big thing. And then the latter half of that year, uh, I I'll be honest, my relationship ended. Like I went to uh, some pretty big comic cons, and I never felt like more at a low point dealing with a lot of people. Like me feeling a bit like an outsider in comics, talking to people that seemingly helped me still feel other than. Like that was very disheartening. And then doing the just but kind of maintaining this very bad attitude. I had a very bad mindset of like just keep moving forward or just kind of ignore it. Um, and then the Midnight Western Theater Zoop happened, and I was promoting that. And halfway through, I burnt out completely, and I was just like, I cannot keep doing this anymore. Like this is making me entirely unhappy, and I'm not focusing on myself. I'm not focusing on my own mental health and stuff like that. I was so caught up in a rat race that I kind of forgot about me along the way.
Yeah.
So I did what all people do, and I became a lumberjack. And this is ironically true. I became a lumberjack and went into the woods and chopped down trees and dug holes for a summertime. And unfortunately, a man in a helicopter didn't come down to be like, "We need you to come out of retirement." Uh, but 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 I did get a few emails of very very kind people offering me work and small anthologies, um, and also like in that time of reconnecting with myself, also just learning that I love to make comics and reaching that understanding that I don't have to make something that is so famous or utterly successful. Like I can just make the stories and art that I would like to make
Mm-hmm.
just because I want to make it, not because I want to please an editor or make something that like craft the perfect pitch as opposed to making the best comic. So yeah, that's just led to me being like, I'm gonna make things that I find to be really interesting. I'm gonna make things that I would love to read. And that's what Laugh Riot is, one of those projects of me putting a lot of things I find fascinating into one thing. There's another big project I'm working with artist Tyler Linaz, who is a member. He was a member of the Marvel Art Atelier program. We worked together on Comics Are Dying. We're working on something together. That's another one of just like it's just pure fun. If Laugh Riot is a bit more dramatic, then the other thing we're working on is just complete fun. And me kind of becoming a bit more calm, a bit more serene, and a bit more realistic with all this has kind of ironically just led to more doors opening. But like I'll get to promote this too. I am part of the Exo Man of War Black, White, and Gold anthology for Valiant Comics and Alien
Yes.
Books. So that's just awesome that I get to write another licensed IP character. But that was not me chasing anything. That was very much like literally me waking up one morning and I found an email in my inbox.
Yeah, I was going to
And
ask you about that, how that came about, because like getting the chance to work on Exo Man of War, like that's a pretty big deal, like for Valiant Comics. That's like one of their like premier characters, and to get the
that
chance to
is,
do
I
anything
think,
even in an anthology, like apart from like Bloodshot, he's like their big character. So that's a phenomenal opportunity.
I have no idea how I got that job. All I know is that I got it, and I was really, I'm really pleased about that. And the story, I can't really talk too much
Yeah,
about
absolutely,
it
absolutely.
yet. But the campaign should be launching like either late fall or early winter. But I could tease it. I could tease a little bit. I got to write a nice short story, and the editor was very, very, very kind with some of the toys that he let me take out of the toy box because I was not
Nice.
sure if I would ever work for Valiant ever again. Your kind audience wants to tweet at them saying keep Louis on the payroll, then I'm never going to say no to that. But I was like, well, I don't know if I'll ever write another Valiant story, so I'm going to push my luck with who I can write for.
Yeah, take advantage
So
of it. If this is my only chance, I'm going to play with what I can.
yeah, so I've for any longtime Valiant fans, I did my research for that as well, and I got to dig out a fun villain from the '90s as well as the 2010s thing. So I brought them back and a whole cavalcade of other characters. So I'm very pleased with that, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it.
Nice. Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to checking it out and see what you got to do. I mean, the big question I think we're all wondering for Exo Man of War is like, is it a Western story?
Yeah, it's Exo Man of War, but what if he was a cowboy? Like, could you imagine? Could you imagine? I would. Oh, yeah. For those of you who don't know, I broke into comics writing a Western story, and I was plagued for a very brief amount of time of just being like, well, you're the cowboy guy, like you can write cowboy stuff.
Hey, do you want to work on
But
this Flash Gordon book? Yeah, you can do the cowboy story, right? Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
I'm very thankful for, and
Which,
I
yeah,
am.
which I'm busting Lewis's chops here. Like it was a great little story he did for them with another take on Flash Gordon. It was really well done, a really good comic. I actually thoroughly
I
enjoyed it.
I very much mused to myself that I was so proud of the Governor Ming T. Marcellus that's my crowning achievement in all of comics history
That's
that I
amazing.
came up with a regular name for Ming.
Got Ming the Merciless and a nice, normal, everyday Western name for him. But I'm glad that you've kind of got out of you're the Western guy, because for a while it was like it looks like that might just be what you get to do in comics was Westerns. But
I've actively tried to fight against that. Like one thing, if you pay attention to my career, I really do not like doing the same thing twice.
yeah,
Midnight Western Theater is an exception in the sense that the publisher asked for a sequel.
yeah,
So, I got to write a sequel. You're never going to say no to that. But like, you can go onto my website, www.louissouthard.com. But like part of my most, I think this is kind of a fun thing to talk about. When I broke in, my first ever book was a super villain comedy called Villain Seeking Hero. And I was commissioned 18 issues to make for the publisher Action Lab, and it was, like a dream come true, so to speak. And it was just like I could write this forever. And then the publisher shut down because of COVID. That was like a rude wake up call for me. Even like I realized this even back then of like you can't just make one thing,
Yeah.
because now this thing that was supposed to come out never will, and what do you do? Like now it's, you could continue it, but like there's no, and I tried to with online service called Zest World. I was part of their launch, but like it's still not the same.
Yeah.
So, or like you have to diversify what you make, and I learned that very early on, because Midnight Western Theater saved my writing career, and that was my back burner project, like that I just made in my spare time with the original artist David Hahn. So that was like a very big, as I said, wake up call of just like, oh yeah, keep doing other things, because you'll never know which thing will be the thing that's hip and now, or that'll work.
Yeah. Yes, you never know what's going to catch on, and then even then, like if you get to the end of the project, even if it is successful, like okay, you got Midnight Western Theatre out, big success, came out, massive launch, even got to do a sequel for it, and it's like, well,
TV show too. Never forget.
it's like, but it's done now, so it's like, well, what do you do next? Even if your project does get made and does become successful, like, well, okay, now it's done. What do you do? And you've honestly been a master of that. Of kind of like you've always got something that you're moving on to, and every time we talk to you, you're talking about your latest project as well as, oh, I've got something else that's going on in the background. I've got something else I'm working on now. Like, you've already teased Exo Man Award, another project that you've got going on. You've always seemed to be a master of that. Of there's always something that's next. There's always
There has to.
something that you're moving on to, and I think that's honestly part of one of your great strengths, is that you've always got the forward momentum of, what you're working on is good, but you also know that you have to keep pushing forward to something else as well. Like you can't just rest on your laurels of the success of one thing. It's like, no, I want to keep doing more. Even with the more laid back attitude, and you're not pushing and going into the rat race and grinding. It's like, no, I've still got more stuff that I want to do. I'm not done.
I would say that like tying back to what the villain seeking hero thing, like it's just the bury your darlings, like regardless of whether or not it's successful or a failure. Like I've had books that I personally loved, that were not, that were like, let's say, critically successful, but they weren't commercially successful.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've had things that like were commercially successful, and I personally I was not entirely 100% proud of it. And I think, to play to my own strengths, while this is a creative industry, industry has always been the key word there. Of I treat this like a business, and I very much am like, it doesn't matter if something's like a success or a failure. It's always like, what is that next thing? Like you could make like a, Peter David passed away not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
And that was a writer. I don't know how many issues of Incredible Hulk that he wrote. Probably maybe close to 200, you'd think.
Yeah,
'Cause
he
had like,
wrote a lot of Incredible Hulk.
that was a decade spanning career.
Yeah.
And I find it so sad that like in his later years, he was destitute, especially amid a lot of health crises. And it is this thing of like, yeah, you see, that is a very commonplace story of people who dedicate years of their time to like one idea or one concept, and you don't really get the benefits in the long run because you've only had the one idea, so to speak. And it could be a great idea, it could be very popular, and it can have a fan base, but I think everyone wants something new. Like not everyone. I think like young people want something that they can be no, that's not exactly like a young people thing. Like, people want something that they can get in on the ground floor and be like, I was there when it started, or like, this was something new
Yeah.
or interesting that caught my attention. And there's nothing wrong with building a fan base or a following that love one thing. But I do think it's wrong to just depend on them and rely on them for an extended period of time, because I feel like that is a form of laziness and taking advantage of people extending a form of kindness to you as a creator. Like, it's no one's obligation to be a fan of you or your
No,
work,
absolutely not.
right?
Absolutely not.
And I think it is just doing them a disservice to. It's like Simpsons, like you could make something that was really great in this period of time, or you could make something that lasts close to 40 years, and most of it's not great, or something like that. But like, it has a fan base, but it's not a happy one entirely, or something like that.
No,
So
absolutely, absolutely, and I think there's something to be said for that as well. Is like, because I think especially in entertainment in general, but in the comic book business especially as well, like there's so much recycling and rehashing, and like there's so much the same stories over and over again, and sequels, and like, and I've said this plenty of times, especially about the big two, which, no disservice to Marvel and DC, they are where they are for a reason, but it's like you can only tell the same stories with the same characters so many times. Literally saw, speaking of cartoony characters, literally saw a post on socials not too long ago for their next big comic coming out. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe again. And I'm like, you're literally saying again in the title. Like, you've literally done this already. You couldn't rehash a story harder if you tried. Like, are we really out of stories to tell? And it's like, and that's one of the reasons I love indie comic books so much, is because there's this whole plethora of amazing stories and amazing artwork out there that people are just not aware of that exist. And I'm like, go and read it. It's amazing.
yeah,
There's some amazing stories out there that people are missing out on because they only read Marvel and DC. And I'm like, I got bored of it after like so many years. I'm like, I'm still a fan of Spider-Man. I'm still a fan of X-Men and Batman and like the heroes, but it's like, I mostly like see the new stories coming out and it's like, oh, okay. When it's like, no, there's this amazing indie story and it is so cool. You have to go read it. It's like, there's so much out there.
That's all touchy territory. I would never disparage the works of my peers, and I would never comment on the state of the industry as it is. Um, what I will say is that one healthy here. I'm not a parent, but what I am is an uncle, and I have two very lovely nieces, very fantastic nieces, and I I like a lot of nerd stuff, right? But I also get into that kind of like cynicism of just like, oh well, this isn't let's say Marvel, the movies. I would say the movies aren't as good as they used to be, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I grew up in the time of the, building up to Infinity War and Endgame and all that. So that's my reference point. But I watched Fantastic Four with my two nieces, and they loved it. And like, things that I found to be predictable or like expected, to them it's like a complete and utter surprise and shock, and you get to see that magic through them. And now this is gonna sound harsh, but then I went, oh, that's right. This stuff is for babies. And just like, but not in a very like, I'm not trying to be mean, like in that sense of like, oh yeah, we love this stuff as fans,
Yeah.
that we forget that there are generations below us, that to them this is their introduction,
Yeah.
and that this is like things that we find repetitive or whatever. This is them experiencing that for the first time. And you could argue like, oh, well, go back and read the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby stuff. And as a comics history lover, I have done that. But you also have to like encounter like the reading structure of the Thing jumping, and then the Thing saying, "I'm gonna jump now," or like Stan Lee being like Mr. Fantastic to Invisible Woman, like, "Oh, Sue, you're in your feminine disposition. You can't handle fighting Doctor Doom today. You're too wily." Like it's there. You're not gonna send a modern day kid to go read that stuff.
Yeah.
So like that was a big wake up call for me as a fan. That like, oh no, all this stuff is for everyone, and we have to accept that and kind of gain a new perspective on it. But like, on the other hand, though, there is a bit of a magic trick to make something that appeals to all generations. And I personally wish that there was more of a trend not to rely on nostalgia and retreading and creating stories that are simply more well thought out. And that's not me saying that they're not. It's just more like time constraints, budgeting, and just like the way we make comics doesn't always allow for that, as people think very differently when it comes to their writing, and everyone has a very different way to look at it. But I think that if we lived in a better world, people would have a lot more time to maybe make the best version of whatever it is that they wanted to make.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely a part of it as well. Like you said, there's definitely something to be said for, because Stan Lee was very much, speaking of him, was a proponent of that, of every issue is somebody's first. Every issue is somebody's first issue of a comic, of a series, of first time picking up any sort of comic. So it's important that they feel that they can get caught up in it and they can learn this new world. And yeah, some of the stories, it's their first time seeing it. Like, that comes with age. Like, you start to see tropes, and you start, like, when you read or evolve as many comics as we are, like, yeah, I can see tropes coming a mile away. But I've also been reading them for most of my life, and I'm almost 40. So it's like, yeah, I've had a few years of seeing these tropes, and I know what's coming. And, I've read Marvel for so many years, so I can tell what Marvel's probably going to do in this, because, all the toys have to go back in the toy box at the end of the day. But for another reader, this is their first foray into it, and they've never seen anything like it. I remember what that was like. I remember the comics I picked up that made me like, this is amazing. Or the comics I finally got to pick up and like, this is what's made me like a permanent comic reader. And the stuff that was like, wow, this is phenomenal. And for other people who have been reading since the Stan Lee era, they were probably like, it's not great. It's like everyone goes through periods of that, and everyone goes through that thing. But at the same time, like you said, I think sometimes there are constraints put on people. Sometimes, like, there are things that you look at and go, let's be honest, that's more of a money grab than an actual idea that's been thought through. It's like Civil War 2.
But I would say there's nothing wrong with a little synergy.
Nothing wrong with it. But, it's like, I think that's it. But I think there's also a lot to be said as well, like, for stuff like what you're doing and what a lot of creators are doing out in the indie world, and telling these stories, that there's a freedom to tell the story you want to tell.
I'll get into that. That's a good thing you brought that up, because I have a friend who is a fellow. He is a comics professor in the UK. He teaches a class of aspiring comics creators. He's a little bit older than me, and our conversations usually kind of revolve around him being flabbergasted that I managed to break in, because he can't wrap his head around like the steps I took to do it. But I think what's almost sad is that, like, I feel like I picked the absolute best time to want to get into comics. And that's very ironic for me to say, given that I've been on your show many times and all I've done is complain. But I I I I have to say, like, I picked the absolute best time because I started in 2018, and the amount of independent publishers that I could pitch to was a lot. I had a variety of options of places that I could try to get my first comic book picked up at.
Yeah.
And it took a year, and I did get it. But Skip, what year is it? It's 2025, so 7 years roughly later.
Yeah.
Like, most of those places don't exist anymore.
Yeah. A lot of them are gone now.
A lot of companies that I worked for or pitched to back only a couple years ago, they're gone. They're either bankrupt or they folded or they're just a shell of their former self. And now, I believe Mad Cave is a very fantastic independent publisher.
Yeah.
But in like the grand scheme of things, they're the only ones that are really accepting pitches. And that has, and of course now Diamond, the distributor, has folded this year, and that is a wonderful example of how maybe a monopoly is not a good way to run a business.
Yeah.
But now that's led to even more shrinkage in terms of options. So if I was 18 then, so if I was an 18-year-old starting now, I would be at a loss. Because where would I go to pitch any of my ideas? Which, the flip side to that is how wonderful crowdfunding is for creators to now just make the things they want to make without any, not without any supervision, but just like without the red tape.
Yeah.
Or without having to like wait. Like, you don't have to wait for your big break. You don't have to wait to arrive. You've arrived. You're here. And you can just do the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even the bigger publishers on products that, to be frank, they maybe don't need a Kickstarter. Maybe you're going to make a profit. Go on to crowdfunding to like just make a show or a display of it, or just, and that's just the way of the future. One thing I don't like is that now it almost reminds me of like traditional TV versus streaming, at least how it used to be, where there was like, I don't know if you remember, but like there was this nice like kind of period of time where the Academy didn't want to nominate streaming shows.
Yeah.
And there is this sort of direct market versus crowdfunding period that we're in, where one like good critique someone could get from like a direct market editor, if you let's say I had a big audience on Kickstarter and every project I make funds, then I go to this editor and I said, I've made all these things. Then the big thing I've heard that they could say to you is, well, that market won't necessarily blend into the direct market. Like maybe you won't bring that audience to traditional publishing. And even that just feels like, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want at that point? Because it's like, if there's no real other way to do it, like, this is the way. This is the modern day version to hopefully try to break in for younger people.
But that's it. It's like it feels like to me like it's trying to get like comic fans into the direct market. It seems like one of those things that's been like that brass ring that people have been after for so long. Like you see it a lot, and again, not to discourage like anything with Marvel, but Marvel making changes in comics, for example, that clearly line up with, in case people come in looking for what we see in the movies, let's make that more like what we're doing in the comics. And the truth is, like, those people like are not coming into the comic book store, most of them. It's like we're making these changes for this new audience that they're like, but they're not ever coming in. Like the audience doesn't really change in the comic book store and the direct market, the people who get their comics set aside every week, and it's like, but now we've got this brand new way of getting audiences. This brand new way of, like, Laugh Riot is fully funded in its first issue out. If it
In
does
6 days.
yeah, if it does a successful like run and people really love the comic when they get to read the whole thing, which I think they will, having gotten a look at it, it's like I think they will love it. Which means you've got a ready set audience there who are ready and waiting for Laugh Riot issue 2 to come out and drop on Kickstarter, who want to see what the next part of the story is and want to see what it is. And it's like, you've got a set audience there, and it's like, will they come over to the direct market for stuff that you do? And I'm like, maybe, maybe not, but I guarantee they're more likely to turn their head if they know they like the person that's creating it.
One thing I will say is I think the state of the modern industry, right? I kind of have it on good authority, is that the state as of right now is to sort of rely on big IP names and big names in general.
Hey there, Geek Collective. Did you know that Geeks Plus is also on Patreon? For as little as just $2 a month, you can also support us over on Patreon and get early access to all of our YouTube videos from Geeks Plus Comics, Geeks Plus Tabletop, and Geeks Plus Gaming, as well as a whole bunch of exclusive content specifically for our supporters over on Patreon, and early access to all the behind the scenes and ongoings with the company. So if you would like to check out all of that stuff and help support what we do here at Geeks Plus, we would greatly appreciate heading over to patreon.com/geeksplusmedia and supporting us over there. But that's all from me from now. You all have a good day, and let's get back into your video.
There is this reliance on IPs and established creators, but more so on the IPs than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there is this void of personalities in comics, and you can have like a successful IP, but that IP doesn't represent itself fully, and it can't carry you across the finish line. So like I feel like having creators that know how to promote or are vocal or passionate about what they're doing is that thing that gives you that sort of X factor. I feel like in terms of big creators, I guess Scott Snyder's a really good one. I feel like he is that kind of like proponent and hype man of the Absolute universe right now. But other than him, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone other than maybe the usual suspect of Todd McFarlane or Robert Kirkman. I think he's a good one with Skybound and you know the people at Image. But there's not really like people like I think us as readers are attracted to maybe not necessarily like there are people that are I could say this who are fans of me that will read a book simply because I have written it, right? But like I wrote for Flash Gordon, and a good chunk of people that read that one that I know from my audience had no interest in it other than I'm on the team.
Yeah.
So like that's part of the the process, and I hope to say the same with the Exo Manowar. You know, when that happens is going to kind of be the same process, but like going into crowdfunding, like look at what we did with Laugh Riot. That is just completely a grassroots sort of thing of like these are people that either like me or they like the artist, or in terms of people who backed it that were already fans, and everyone else are just people are strangers coming in that just like the idea of the concept. So it is this kind of nice blend of people who are just curious and people who believe in us, the creators. So that in my perspective is or point of view, that's probably the best situation that I could ever want, because
absolutely.
I know for certain that it's people there for a good idea or there because I'm great, and I certainly am. So that's that, but it makes you like most of this job is on the computer, right? And I I went through a good period of feeling like, oh, I'm in a bit of an echo chamber. I'm in a void of like, oh, there's no way to know if what I'm making is actually connecting with people.
Yeah.
But this has been a great experience to see that, oh no, it is connecting with people. And right now I think we have around close to 60 people backing it. But like that's it, like cut back to flipping 8 years ago when I was starting out. I couldn't imagine even 60 people like backing a thing. Like
Yeah.
this has been. It doesn't matter if it's just like 1,000 or 100 or 60 or one. Like if people believe in you, that is, and believe in the product you're making, that is the most rewarding part of being an artistic creator.
I mean, that's got to feel good as well. Like like you said, to have had that question of like, do I know if my work is actually connecting with people? Do people actually like it? Do they enjoy it? And like you said, you've had little glimpses of that, like with Flash Gordon. Like, some people picked it up because you were working on it, and they checked it out because of your work on it. But to put out a project like Laugh Riot and know there's only two reasons, like you said, that they're backing it. Either they believe in the creators and they know their work, like, hey, I'm a fan of Louis Southard, so I'm going to go check out his latest work. Or they're checking out the concept and went, this sounds awesome. I need to see what it's all about. So that whoever's there, and like we may have mentioned, it is fully funded on Kickstarter, within 6 days, no biggie, no big whoop, just funded in 6 days, less than a week. But that it was fully funded by a bunch of people that either believe in you or believe in the project.
I'm very thankful for that just experience.
But yeah, it must be good to have just that audience that is there, that is fully believing in this project. And for anyone who is checking this out for the first time hearing about Laugh Riot, you have not gone to the Kickstarter page, link is down below. Go and click on it. It'll take you straight to the page. Go and back Laugh Riot #1 and all the goodies that Louis has got going on with that. Also, as well, I will put all of his links down below so you can go and check out Louis on social media, keep up to date with him and all of the stuff that he's doing on socials yourself. But Louis, sorry to cut us off there. We've probably got more stuff we could say, but thank you so much for joining us again here on the show. It's a pleasure to have you back. It's a pleasure to have you back in the comic industry once again, and it has been an absolute pleasure checking out Laugh Riot. Thank you, sir. Any last words or any last kind of thing you want to say to the people as we wrap up?
I have to please back Laugh Riot, please. We're already funded. We just want to get more readers. Basically, you can get the digital version, you can get the physical version. Like you have your options there. You can even talk to me for 1 hour. That's one of the tiers. But yeah, if you want to follow what we're up to, you can either sign up for the campaign, you can look up www.louissouthard.com, or check out any of my social medias of @LouisSouthard. Like they're all down below. We're there. Thank you so much for having me back on. It's always such a pleasure to be back on this show. I'm so sorry for the little chicken running away, but I'm always so glad to be back here, and I'm glad to be back in comics.
Absolutely, and I'm pretty sure we'll have Louis back on the show at some point in the near future with all the amazing other projects he's got going. But for today, that is everything from us. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've not done it already, go down, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content from Geeks Plus Comics. And remember, it is a good week to be a geek. Take care. I'll see you all next time. Peace.